Psalm 107. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, for those he redeemed from trouble, and gathered in from the lands, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. Hi, friends. We're glad to be with you on this CPE special worship service today. I am currently doing my CPE at Ohio Health at Marion General Hospital. This is my first unit of CPE, and I've only been a month in, so I'm still pretty new at it, but I'm still happy to share my reflections with you so far. I've only had one job that I truly loved. I've had other jobs where I'd be happy to do it for a while, or jobs that I had a love-hate relationship with, or jobs that I just flat out hated. Because life had led me away from that one job that I loved, I struggled to discern a career vocation that I would truly love again. Last Friday, as I left Marion General Hospital, I had that feeling. The feeling that I could be truly happy to do something for the rest of my life, or at least for a long while. I've only been in CPE for a little less than a month, and I still have a long way to go with lots of mistakes to make and lots of lessons to be learned. But as I left that Friday doing my clinical hours at Marion, I felt happy and confident in my decision to try out chaplaincy. This was really surprising to me. Since I started seminary 2 years ago, I struggled with what I wanted to do with my degree when I graduate this spring. I knew that I was good with pastoral care kind of stuff, and other friends who had tried CPE loved it too, so I thought I would give it a try. I was really nervous. All I wanted to do was find a potential career vocation, and I was worried that I would hate it or that I would be terrible at it. But I knew that I would never know if chaplaincy was right for me if I didn't try it. So I tried CPE, and I won't lie, it's not easy. It's not just praying for people or holding their hand before a surgery, although there is quite a bit of that too. There's a lot of work on yourself that you have to do in the process. It's less about just a typical internship and more about learning how to do a job while also paying attention about how you grow while you do it as well. It's a lot of reflecting on your emotions and how they're expressed when you visit a patient that reminds you of a loved one. It's facing your own theological questions and dilemmas and trying your hardest to answer them and coming to terms with the fact that you don't have the answer all the time. It's the fact that dealing with the fact that humans, yourself included, aren't perfect. However, you have hope that you, me, and we are also beloved and called to care for one another. So CPE is a great way to learn more about yourself, God, and the world around you. And so I highly encourage you to check it out if you're interested in expanding your expertise in pastoral care, or maybe if you are interested in chaplaincy as a career. Like I said, it's not easy and it's a lot of work, but so far I'm learning a lot in the process. So I encourage you to try it.
Psalm 107, verses 4, 5, and 6 from the New International Version. Some wandered in the desert wastelands, finding no way to a city where they could settle. They were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. My name is Jeffrey. I am a student. I am completing my field education at Nationwide Children's Hospital. Going into this experience, I was so excited to learn more about caring for youth, caring for children, and loving them in a way and in a setting, in a context that they may not feel loved, they may not feel cared for. But when I arrived at CPE, as Shannon stated before, I realized that I needed to do a lot of work on myself. A lot of times I often felt like, as it says in verse 4, uh, that I was wandering in a desert wasteland. I was trying to find a place, a city where I could settle. I was trying to find a place where I could be comfortable. But I had to realize that during this clinical pastoral education process, during this in this space where I felt uncomfortable, where I felt like I was in a wasteland, that was my opportunity to learn, to connect, to understand that just because I'm confused, there are a lot of people here, not just my peers who are in CPE, but patients, children, their families, doctors, nurses, child life specialists, so many others who are feeling that same feeling of being lost, that same feeling of being hurt, similar feelings of confusion. And so the power, the promise in those moments I had to find was that there was solidarity in our seeking. There was truth to be found in sharing our experiences with one another, sharing our feelings of hurt, pain, discontent, anger, helping each other move through these wastelands together, so that not so that we could reach a city of comfort, but so that we could come together and make a city of true peace, true care, and true love for those that we are serving. In verse 5, it also states in Psalm 107, they were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. Oftentimes in CPE, I feel as though literal hunger takes over my life as we get call after call and page after page, and we don't necessarily get to eat all of the time. But also metaphorically, understanding that I always wanted a particular thing. I came in thinking that, oh, I'm going to be, like Shannon said, praying. I'm going to be working with individuals. People are going to be saved because of the things I say. I'm going to be praying with people before they go into surgery. There are going to be families that want to talk to me. I hungered for that. I wanted that. But oftentimes I found that when I came to parents, when I came to families, when I came to patients and children, they didn't really want that kind of care. And so I felt my idea of pastoral care, my life ebbing away. I felt as though it was moving away. But what I came to understand is that my hunger, their hunger, it wasn't for necessarily what I thought I needed. Their hunger wasn't for what I was offering, but I had to understand that I needed to connect with them in a special and intimate way so that I could try and access what they needed, what their needs were, what they expressed that they wanted. And even in times where it was just playing a game, going in a coloring book, helping them find the nearest bathroom, getting them a bottle of water or a warm towel, that was providing for the hunger that they expressed. And in the end, that filled my hunger to care for people once I let go of what I thought I was hungry for. And finally, in verse 6, where of Psalm 107, where it says, then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. What I find oftentimes is I have to cry out, I have to say something so that people know that I need care. And here in verse 6, they cried out to the Lord, and the Lord heard them. But interestingly enough, it doesn't say that God brought them out of that desert place. It says that God delivered them from their distress. And so we oftentimes have to find peace in the confusion. I have to find peace in that at times I don't get to see a 12-month-old child or a 4-month-old child or an 11-day-old child be healed from a sickness that they're dealing with. I don't get, delivered, and parents oftentimes don't get delivered from that sadness, from that pain. But there is a peace, a deliverance from distress that is oftentimes offered, and something that I oftentimes have to accept because that's the true beauty of my CPE experience. Thank you all for listening, and I hope this provides some perspective not only on CPE, but caring for others and caring for yourselves.
Thanks, Shannon and Jeff, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to reflect and share a little bit this afternoon with everybody. I'm going to continue in the reading of Psalm 107, verses 7 through 9. He led them by a straight way until they reached an inhabited town. Let them thank the Lord for his steadfast love, for his wonderful works to humankind, for he satisfies the thirsty and the hunger he fills with good things. For those who know me, and my name is John. I am and who don't know me, I should say, my name is John. I'm a last semester MAPT student with a specialization in chaplaincy and pastoral care. And I am in the CPE journey along with Jeff at Nationwide Children's Hospital. And it's been quite the journey these last 6 weeks. What I was going to say is, for those who know me and who have ever encountered me when I offer presentations, I always tend to write out, and I like script myself out. And I had a really hard time trying to script this thing out. And part of that, I think, goes to what CPE has taught me in these last, what's it been, 5-6 weeks now at Children's Hospital. And that it's one of these things that has taught me to dig deeper in my own soul, to be uncomfortable and be okay to be uncomfortable. So I'm a little uncomfortable and kind of free flowing my thoughts. I got some notes in front of me, but I do want to share with you just some of my thoughts about what I've experienced in these last few weeks. It has been some of the most challenging weeks of my life. Not just personally challenging, and as Jeff mentioned and as Shannon mentioned, you spend a lot of time in personal reflection, and I keep hearing this statement over and over again that's the thought. What's the feeling? It's to go beyond what we have done so often here at MTSO and think about things, to then have to kind of relearn and unlearn that and go with what you're feeling. What's that emotion that's evoking within your heart, within your soul? And is it you? Are you just empathizing with the other individual? Or are you reflecting on the other individual and what they're feeling? So it's really caused me to dig in and to dive deep in my own self. And so I'm grateful for those experiences. And it's also been difficult, not just for that, but I have seen people face some of the most daunting things in their lives. Parents who have had their lives turned upside down from children who have been brought in through trauma, who kissed their child goodbye that morning, never to be able to see their child alive again, and that rocks your soul. And so I have found myself still celebrating through those tragedies and celebrating through the tears as I learn to process through a deeper reflection in my own time with God. I've wrestled with these theodicy questions day after day and week after week. And I'm grateful to have the safe place, the brave space in order to do that, and the challenge to do that as well. You know, at Children's Hospital, one of the gifts that we have there is that serving as an intern chaplain is you do work alongside the patients, but you do get the pleasure and the added benefit of spending so much time with parents. Because oftentimes when you're there with the children, either they're the hospital patient and they may not be aware of many things that are going on, and so you get a lot of time to spend with parents and families, but also with the staff. And one of the things that I've come to see is that the parents and staff are hungering and thirsting for conversation. And they too are longing to feel the presence of the divine, and whatever form the divine takes in their own lives and their own spirituality. In those moments of unforeseen tragedy and pain and suffering and hurt, and it just comes and it comes and it comes and it doesn't ever seem to stop. Some nights, they just want to feel that presence of the divine. And I'm grateful to be able to be in those spaces. Somebody asked, what do you wish you know before you took CPE? If you're asking that question, I'm not going to give you a lot, because here's my answer to that. I'm glad I didn't know a whole lot. I'm glad I didn't know a lot before I began, other than just serving as an intern chaplain, because the one thing that it's allowed me to do in these first 6 weeks It's allowed me to be open and ready for whatever is coming. And I think it's helped to make me a better person. It's helping to make me to be a better pastor, and it will help me to become a better chaplain. And let me offer this to those of you who are thinking about, do you want to do CPE? Is chaplaincy something for you? Do you just want to garner this experience? One of the greatest insights that I had, and I'm going to close with this, is that I was really struggling. I've served in the parish for 15 years now, from youth and children's ministry to parish pastoring as an associate pastor and all forms and facets. And I was really struggling because you have a moment in time that you sit with a family or an individual, and it may be 5 minutes, it may only be 30 seconds. And I was really struggling because I've been walking alongside families through tragedies, through all kinds of suffering. And I thought I was ready for this. And then you wonder, what difference am I making? Am I making a difference? And our educator at Children's Hospital is a special individual, and I'm grateful for Mark's leadership and guidance. And he shared with me this important insight. He said, in parish pastoring, in which he did for many years, is that you have a shared life with your people that you walk alongside with, and you celebrate together, you grieve together, you laugh and you cry, you mourn, you dance, you weep, all of those things together. And you do it over a long period of time, and you walk through those journeys together, the highs and the lows. And in chaplaincy, it just felt like I was in the lowest valley, in the darkest valley with some people. And I was really struggling with what can I do with that? And it was in that time that he shared with me this concept of the shared moment and holding that moment. So a lot of being in CPE, a lot of being in chaplaincy for what I'm getting in these first 6 weeks is sharing that space, sharing just that moment, and knowing that you've shared that with that person, you've shared it with the divine, and I cherish those moments together. And whether they be highs, lows, whatever it may be, I've spent many time back in the sleep room at Children's Hospital weeping, but I'm also grateful, and I will be eternally grateful for this experience. And if you feel that nudge from the divine on your heart, it's definitely it's an experience like none other. And I would invite you and encourage you to think about being a CPE student, whether it's in your time here at MTSO or at some time in your ministry. It will make you a better pastor. It will make you a better person. And it will make you a better follower of Jesus.
He turns rivers into a desert, springs of water into thirsty ground, a fruitful land into a salty waste because of the wickedness of its inhabitants. He turns a desert into pools of water, a parched land into springs of water. And there he lets the hungry live, and they establish a town to live in. They sow fields and plant vineyards and get a fruitful yield. I appreciate so much what my companions have shared about CPE, and I'm really interested in the ways that I feel like what we're sharing kind of weaves together, even though we really haven't talked about it before today. I'm Mimi Lubers, and I'm working on a practical theology degree with a specialization in disability and ministry. It was around this time last year that I heard CPE Day was coming up, so I asked some friends, what's that? And they told me clinical pastoral education. It's about learning to be a chaplain and provide spiritual care. You get to roam around the hospital and talk to all kinds of different people about what's going on with them and how they make sense out of it based on their beliefs and faith traditions. Of course, they didn't mention that it was going to be in the middle of a global pandemic. So I thought about it and talked about it and prayed about it and applied for it. And on October 5th, I started my CPE at Riverside Methodist Hospital. I haven't been at it for very long yet, but as I was reading this week's lectionary text from the book of Joshua, it sounded to me like the sacramental nature of this work. Joshua is getting ready to lead the Israelites across the Jordan River into the promised land. The priests are going to carry the covenant chest into the river and hold it up while the people wade in. Then God will hold back the water while the Israelites cross over. Now, I can imagine that even though God has brought them through 40 years in the wilderness to get to this point, the Israelites might be feeling almost as anxious as I did on my first day of CPE. But they're told something remarkable. You will know the way you should go, even though you've never traveled this way before. For me, CPE is a little like standing in the river and lifting up the presence of God while patients, families, and hospital staff wade in. Sometimes my arms strain under the weight and my feet get stuck in the mud, but I'm not alone. I'm working with a team of chaplains, residents, instructors, and fellow interns. And God is an ever-present source of help and strength. So I'm learning to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm learning to comfort with the comfort which I have received. And in the process, I am being blessed. So if you're wondering about what CPE is, think about it, talk about it, pray about it. You will know the way you should go, even though you've never traveled this way before.